Well, coming up on today's show, once again, Tesla unlock features to help people in trouble. Hyundai reveal an EV concept. And Jaguar's I-Pace sales are charted. Well, good morning, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. Welcome to a brand new week. It is Monday, the 12th of November, and it's Martyn Lee here. I've been through every EV story I can find today, so you don't have to. Thank you to the team at myev.com for helping make this show. If you're in the market for buying a used EV, check them out. Maybe you're in the market for selling a used EV and you've been thinking, man, have I got to go to a dealer and trade it in and all those kind of things. Before you do anything, check out myev.com. Well, Tesla have enabled features once again to help those in trouble. If you are in the area affected by the California wildfires, and actually quite a big radius around them as well, you may see this on the screen of your Tesla. Due to wildfires in California, your vehicle has been granted free supercharging. We hope this provides assistance for your transportation needs and will notify you before returning your vehicle to its original configuration in mid-December. Safe travels. That's what your display will read if you need free supercharging enabled for your particular car and you're in the area. And Tesla's also released additional battery capacity. So if you have one of the software locked battery packs, which, if you didn't know, by the way, you can buy, if anyone who's not kind of in the know about the way that you could buy the Tesla Model S, you could buy the car with a bigger battery pack than you had access to, and then at some point in the future you could pay some money and they would unlock the rest of the battery that you've had all along. That is being unlocked for free for those in the area, just as they did with Hurricane Florence, by the way, and that also mid-December before it reverts back to the size of battery pack, the usable capacity that you paid for. Staying with Tesla, and wouldn't it be nice to add a cool $5 million to your bank account? Well, that's what JB's done. JB Straubel is the CTO. Jeffrey B. Straubel, aka JB. And just as important to Tesla in many ways as Elon Musk, in many different ways, actually. JB is always interesting when you hear him speak, which is pretty rare, but on things like the earnings calls, and occasionally he'll do an event and he'll talk about the technology side of the Tesla business. Always fascinating. Anyway, a couple of days ago, he sold 15,000 shares of Tesla in a transaction which has been dated for Wednesday, the 7th of November. The stock was sold at a price of $348. That's a transaction total of $5.2 million. The sale was disclosed in a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can see it on the SEC website. If you're interested, I'll put a link to the SEC website on the blog, on the show notes. You can see a shot of the filing. Tesla has a market cap at the moment of $59 billion. $59.79 billion. Not bad, eh? And last quarter alone had revenue of $6.82 billion. So a couple of nice little stats to always remind you of just how big the company is. And congratulations to JB for having enough shares to sell 15,000 of them and pocket $5.2 million. Well, the next story of Hyundai is a bit of a saga. Sorry, pardon the pun. In fact, in this country, Saga is a brand for the retired and older. They do things like holidays and deals and things like that for those who are perhaps more mature in years. It's an interesting name. Maybe Saga isn't an international company, I don't know. But in this country, if you were driving a Saga, it would be an interesting thing. That's the name, though, that Hyundai have given their new concept car. This story comes via Motor One Brazil. And obviously, being Motor One Brazil, a bit of Google Translate is required, so this may be interesting. And it should be fun. And the article, according to Google Translate, says this: Hyundai is looking at ways to increase its strength in the Brazilian market. Some of them were concentrated in a single prototype. The Saga EV is a small crossover with electric motorization. It's formal. Created not only to anticipate the new design identity of the company for the models in Brazil, but also to feel a bit of what the public thinks of the idea of a smaller utility than Crete. Well, Crete's a country. I don't know what that word is meant to be translated from. But anyway, apparently Hyundai are releasing this prototype to see what the buying public think of Crete. It's very nice. I recommend you go on a holiday there. It's very sunny. And if they would like a full electric car. What has Crete been translated from? Anyway, maybe we should stick with Inside EVs, who have also done their own story on the Saga EV. It turns out to be equipped actually under the skin with an awful lot of the Hyundai Kona EV. Yeah, 64 kilowatt hour battery. Yep, 150 kilowatt electric motor. It's ticking all the boxes. The all-new style of the Saga EV is designed by Hyundai North America in California, and it previews the HB20X styling, that otherwise known as the i20, depending on where you're listening around the world. According to news from Brazil, the production electric CUV, based on the i20, could be ready for the local market in Brazil next year in 2019, and it would do 292 miles of range, 0 to 80% in 54 minutes. Let's move on to Mazda. While it doesn't offer any hybrids or EVs, Mazda is actually the most fuel-efficient car company in the US. Simply, on a numbers game, Mazda doesn't sell trucks, and it doesn't make engines bigger than a four-cylinder. Ergo, by default, they tend to be pretty efficient in terms of their fleet figures. Well, that strategy might be working in the USA, but it's about to catch up with Mazda in Europe. Emissions laws are more strict and about to get stricter in 2020. According to CarBars.com, Automotive News Europe report that Mazda is going to be forced to pay European Union fines for failing to cut the emissions of their cars. Mazda's CEO, Akira Muramoto, told reporters the fines are actually related to the company's high proportion of SUV sales. Well, yeah, I guess you could either blame it on two things: the fact that you sell a lot of SUVs, or the fact that you don't sell enough EVs. Let me rephrase that. That you don't sell any EVs. Of course, if you could sell some pure electric cars, Mazda, and that would bring down your overall fleet emissions value. And for every pure electric car that you sell, Mazda, then you'd be able to sell one of your big SUVs with a nice big fat profit margin and lots of pollutants coming out of the exhaust pipe. Well, to avoid further penalties, Mazda's going to have to speed up its introduction in one way or another of hybrids or EVs. The company does have plans to electrify its lineup by, drumroll please, 2035. You heard that correctly. You're not bleary-eyed for a Monday if you're listening to this on your commute to work on a Monday. Yes, they really are aiming to make some changes within 17 years. I'll be retired in... well, maybe I won't be. I'll be close to retirement in 17 years. Including the mild hybridization of their cars. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means a little battery, and the mild hybridization of EVs is where the battery can take over things like belts and pumps and pulleys would do in a fossil engine. The kind of thing that a fossil engine has to work harder for. Even things like turbos, but particularly things like anything that relies on, mechanical driven pumps and pulleys in a fossil engine. If you can electrify those bits with a small battery, some very soft hybrid technology, that can ease the pressure on the fossil engine, ergo lowering your emissions. It was kind of interesting to talk about that 10 years ago, but that's Mazda's plan. And many, by the way, automakers' plans is soft hybrids. Mazda plans to introduce a pure EV and a range extender sometime. They've got big plans for their rotary engine, otherwise known as the Wankel. That is the style of engine that Mazda are a fan of. Can go to very high revs. It's of a certain design. They say it's particularly well suited to range extenders. They think range extenders might be the future, just as BMW end their range extender experiment, saying it was useful for a time in the BMW i3. It served its purpose, but with battery technology so good now, you just don't need a Rex in a car. Maybe for commercial transport, but not in a car. Around the same time that Mazda are going, hey, we've got an idea. It's called a range extender. Good luck, Mazda. There's no doubt that when this all shakes out, by the way, there's going to be some winners and losers. There will be car companies that aren't around in the future. I'd be cracking on with pure electric cars if I was any car maker right now. A company that is moving towards electrification, the Tata-owned Jaguar. In October Jaguar sold 1,200 I-Pace models. Now, I know that that's small change compared to Tesla. However, bear with me. It is their highest result in a month. It brings the total deliveries of the I-Pace to 2,468. When we look at Jag's total volume of 13 and a bit thousand for the month, the I-Pace not only accounted for almost 10% of the entire brand, but the entire increase of sales for Jaguar was all down to the I-Pace. Reports Mark Kane for InsideEVs.com. So far, it seems that the introduction of the I-Pace was indeed a very smart move for Jaguar. In the near future, it will probably try to utilise its platform for other models. We believe there should be no problem exceeding 2,000 units a month sometime soon, says Inside EVs. Always check out the latest scorecard. They've got a quick link from the homepage just at the top there. If you go to InsideEVs.com, you can look at all the numbers. I'm a massive stats geek, so I'm kind of fascinated by that, and they do an incredible job. Staying with the I-Pace, Andy Murray, tennis superstar Andy Murray, has been driving an I-Pace. Oh, what it must be to be famous, where people just give you a free car and hope that you talk about it. Well, Jaguar have given him an I-Pace, and Auto Express asked him the question, you're running an I-Pace at the moment, and you had an F-Pace before it. How do the two SUVs compare? Well, Andy Murray, tennis superstar, said this: the biggest difference is the sound. The I-Pace is extremely smooth. Both cars suit what I need in terms of sports. They fit all my equipment in the boot. I've got 2 kids now. The I-Pace is great for them as well. Wrongly, I assumed you wouldn't be able to go very far with it, but you can. 270 miles. Obviously great for a long trip. Auto Express asked, how have you found the public charging network? Andy Murray said, I charged up once in a service station and that was fine. Obviously, it's a little bit longer than filling up in a petrol station, but the reason for me having to do that was that I hadn't planned in advance. Now I charge the car every night when I'm at home. Well, moving on to the final story tonight is a Clean Technica report. It's this. What I'm going to give you now is one chapter, and it's only really a summary of the chapter of their new electric car driver report. It's called Electric Car Drivers, Demands, Desires and Dreams. 87% of North American Tesla drivers plan to buy another Tesla as their next car, and that is before you even remove the respondents who said they didn't intend to buy another car or hadn't made their mind up yet what their next car would be. 87% already deciding, when we replace this, it's going to be for another Tesla. More specifically, 33% of them intended to get a Model 3. 17% said they're hanging out for a Model Y. 17% also said they would go to a Model S. And pretty much the same 16% said they'd go to a Model X. Several even said they were looking at the Roadster or pickup. Since those cars weren't on the options list, they had to manually fill them out. Here in Europe, the figure was 83%. Saying they would buy a Tesla next. 34% of them going for Model 3, 28% Model S, 13%, much less, a Model Y, and 2% the next Roadster. Well, how about those? We talk a lot about Tesla, but I'm so conscious of it on the podcast that we always want to cover off every other brand. I like to be as agnostic as possible. So what about non-Tesla drivers? Well, most of them were Leaf drivers. 43% who filled out the survey were Leaf drivers. And in North America, 27% were Bolt drivers. In Europe, Zoe's also very popular. Of those filling out the survey, 25% were driving Zoe's. Enormously popular in France, by the way. Other vehicles with strong showings in North America included the compliance car that is the Fiat 500e, the BMW i3, the Ford Focus Electric, the VW e-Golf and the Kia Soul EV. Whereas in Europe, the cars that weren't Tesla were the BMW i3, more popular in Europe than in the US, the Hyundai Ioniq Electric, very popular over here, and mad efficient as well, the Kia Soul EV and the VW e-Golf. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you very much to everybody who answered last week's question of the week. If you haven't caught up with the weekend podcasts yet, we've got your Saturday and Sunday podcast to listen to, and you can listen to Sunday's edition where I read out all of your responses to question of the week and set a brand new question. Here's your new question then, thanks to myev.com who set the question. It is this: either present or upcoming, which EV are you most excited about? So either a car that's on sale now or a car that is soon to be released? In other words, has been announced, not vaporware. What are you most excited about? Which car are you most excited about? Tell me which one and why. Email hello@evnewsdaily.com. That is hello@evnewsdaily.com. And the comment section's open on the blog, on YouTube, on Facebook. And if you want, you can drop by my website anytime to drop me a little message. Want to get to a few messages tomorrow, by the way, on the show from Model 3 owners that have had track mode enabled. I've had some listeners to the show email me, and I'm going to bring those comments together and talk about them tomorrow. Of course, the 115 patrons of this podcast enable it to get into your ears right now. Thank you very much to all those on the list of Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/evnewsdaily if you can contribute. There are 293 episodes of this show online for free from the place you get podcasts from. And if you'd like to hang out on the socials, that's Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. Just search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.